Alf the Aphid Memorial Leaf, the connection between altruistic and spiteful behavior. Many animals have behaviors that seem to go against their nature by helping another animal while hurting themselves. Behaviors that do this are called altruistic. Some examples of altruistic behaviors include turkeys that help their brothers get mates while sacrificing their own chance of mating, prairie dogs that give out an alarm call to warn others when they see a predator, but also attract the predator towards them, and bats that share some of their food if one of their family or friends does not have any that night. While these at first seem completely selfless, at second glance we see that the animals only act altruistically towards related animals. This is because a related animal carries some of the same genes, so if that animal helps a family member, part of the animal's genome is being passed down in the form of that family member. Spite is another type of behavior that is easier to explain once you take a closer look at it. Spite is when an animal hurts itself to hurt an enemy. At first this seems pointless, however it can be explained if you realize that many times when spite occurs, the enemy is hurt more than the animal performing the spiteful action. This brings us to aphid behavior, where an interesting interaction between altruism and spite can be observed. To help illustrate my point, I'd like to tell you all the story of Alf the Aphid, a brave and honorable aphid. Alf the Aphid was an older pea aphid. He was pretty sure he was done reproducing and planned on spending the rest of his days eating away at this pea plant here. Through his many long days of life, Alf had learned never to jump onto the ground when running away from a predator, because the ground was hot enough to burn an aphid alive. One day, Alf was on his way to eat at his favorite leaf, when all of a sudden, a big brackenid wasp came by and injected its parasitic eggs into Alf. This really sucked, because these terrible eggs would hatch, and the larvae would feast on Alf's tissue, eventually killing him. The worst part to Alf was that after the larvae kill him, they would likely grow up and inject their vile eggs into his many offspring. Alf had worked hard to prepare his offspring for a successful life, and couldn't bear the thought of them succumbing to the same fate as he did. A moment later, another terrible beast approached the pea plant, a terrifying ladybug. Alf saw this ladybug eat several of his closest friends, Ava the Aphid, Aiden the Aphid, Aaron the Aphid, Abigail the Aphid, and Tucker. Then, that monstrous beetle turned to look at Alf. He felt the urge to run under the leaf to safety, but that's when he remembered the parasites living inside of him. He wasn't going to let them hurt his family and the rest of his aphid friends. So instead of running to safety, Alf let go of the pea plant. He knew he would burn up on the hot ground, but this was his plan. As he fell, he whispered his last words, "For my family." Hours later, once the ladybug left, all of the surviving aphids got together for a special gathering. They all talked and celebrated Alf's long life. And at the end of the gathering, the aphid mayor came out and announced that they would rename Alf's favorite leaf to the Alf the Aphid Memorial Leaf, a name that would remind everyone of how Alf stopped one of those horrible brackenid wasps from reproducing. The end. As you saw in this story, Alf's actions, which are common in many aphids once parasitized, were altruistic. He prevented his family from becoming parasitized by future brackenid wasps. However, when we look at this interaction from the point of view of the wasp, he was acting spiteful by hurting both himself and the wasp, although hurting the wasp more since he had already reproduced. This aphid behavior is an interesting example in the animal kingdom of how both altruism and spite can be present in the same action. So next time you hear about another example of altruism or spite, don't stop your understanding there. See how the same behavior could fall into the other category by examining it from another point of view. Thank you all for watching.